Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon if you're on a different part of the time zone to me. I want to start by saying a big welcome to my guest, Meghann Conter. Meghann, it is awesome to have you here with me, and I'm super excited
I'm
for
so
our
excited.
conversation today.
Me too.
I also want to say I have a touch of COVID, everyone, so I'm speaking in my quiet voice. And I've been making a real effort not to extend my voice by encouraging my children to bed in a loud voice, which I sometimes do. So I'm speaking in my calm voice so that it doesn't wear out.
Good idea.
Now, in today's episode of Seven Figure Consultant Conversations, we're going to be talking about incorporating ease and fun in the journey from 6 to 7 figures in a business. I'm super excited for this conversation. Seven Figure Consultant Conversations are all about creating space for amazing women who are looking to fulfill the next level of themselves. I love to hold space for women who are all about creating opportunities and wealth for themselves and the people around them. That's kind of the ethos of what we do in these conversations. And LinkedIn Audio is a very new platform. A lot of people haven't had the opportunity to use it yet. Lots of people don't have access to it. So it's super exciting to be talking to you all this evening. I think we're going to have an awesome conversation.
Me too. I'm very excited about this. This is my first time on this platform too, so hopefully we come through loud and clear, and that your voice holds true. As I told you before, your brilliance will shine through whether or not you're speaking in your quiet voice or your kids go to bed now voice.
Exactly. And I don't know if you've ever found this, Meghann, but I lose my voice probably once a year normally. And it's those moments where you're like, I've got so much to say, and yet I cannot say it. So I'm trying to keep my calm voice going, and
Yes.
yeah, conserve
And I
my voice.
wonder what the universe is trying to communicate to you, how you could speak in other ways other than just with your voice as well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, definitely one of my ways is to invite guests such as yourself, Meghann, to come and join me. And
Yes.
it could be that you have to do a bit more of the talking than I can this evening. But would you like to start off by telling us a little bit about who you are and your mission in the world? Because I know that it's awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's see. I am a spiritual being living a human experience, just like all of you. And that human experience has taken me through some interesting twists and turns and the journey, of course, beginning after the university in social media marketing, moving into social media strategy, then branding and marketing strategy, leading to create a new ecosystem in the world of networking, specifically based on the needs, wants, and desires of women running 6 and 7 figure businesses and women in director plus roles, as we empower our women in the Dames community, which is the physical creation that I have put together. And we really empower our members to get more of us to the 7-figure mark and get more of us into the C-suite. The reason being that my mission and why I want to do that is I believe that women are here to transform the face of business. And I believe that we are going to do that by activating the balance of our feminine and masculine energies and calling our true selves forward, calling our true light forward, and linking arms with other women who have these big epic missions as well, and getting more women into the C-suite so that we can truly change the trajectory of business for good and make huge impacts on the planet. We already know that women are highly influential in the economy, and that the more decisions we get to make, the more jobs we get to create, the more opportunities we get to create for the world, the more impact that we can have. And so that is really what the Dames is here for, is to bring together those women who are on these epic missions to link, level up, and laugh together as we grow our businesses, our personal lives, and our careers to our desired level of of outcome.
I love that, Meghann. And I'm so aligned with, we're so on the same wavelength with this whole thing, aren't we? And just,
Mhm.
I think it's such an important thing. So I was writing a post about what we were talking about earlier today. And I was writing that actually so often we think about business growth like it has to be this super serious thing and we're going to have to work harder and hustle harder. And we don't tend to think of it in terms of ease and fun, do we? Like that's a really, it's something that doesn't come naturally to us. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. And I also think that that is part of the paradigm shift that we're all in the midst of. Masculine energy tends to be more of that action driven, um, forward momentum, moving things forward type energy, where feminine, we need to be in that space of receiving and we need to be in that space of creating and that space of space, really, a lot more. So, what we're doing in this paradigm shift is understanding and shifting from what we've been shown by our forefathers, for lack of a better term, but we've been shown by our forefathers that we have to hustle and grind and warrior up in order to be successful in business, in order to be successful in the world. And while that was very true when it was a patriarchal way of doing things, and when it was mostly men running the business world, it is not now. And so part of the shift that we're all in is really learning how to activate that blend of our feminine energy and the masculine. And there aren't really a lot of molds to fit, or there aren't a lot of models to follow. So we're all kind of creating this as we're going along. Those of us who are like you and me, who are saying, okay, what do we actually want in business? How do we want to live our lives? Do we want to live from this space of, well, when I achieve this level, then I will have fun. When I achieve this level or this realm, then I will have ease. When I, get to this stage of business or my career, then I'll have time to do XYZ. Or do we want to change that old outdated programming and start saying, I must create this as part of my business, as part of my daily life, as part of the way that I'm growing my career? That enjoyment of my life, enjoyment of my business gets to be at the top of the list. And if I start doing it sooner rather than later, my life can be more enjoyable right now, not in 20 years when I retire, or not in 10 years when I have XYZ happening.
I think that's really important actually, because I speak to a lot of women who they're like, oh, I used to really like my business, but like I just feel a bit done with it. And actually it's not that they have any less ambition. It's not that they want less of like the business success, but it's kind of, it's usually like on, if they have to have it on these terms, they don't really want it. And it's, I think it's great what you've said there, Meghann, about just starting to realize that actually it's not about kind of just endure whatever on the journey, because you'll get to the destination, you'll like the destination. Actually, for a lot of women, it's a long trajectory of growth in their business. It's not that it's slow, but like the scale of what they want to achieve evolves as time goes on. So you don't always get to the
Yep.
destination straight away. It's like you start off and maybe first of all you're thinking I want to get to six figures, and then you're thinking I want to get to seven figures. And there can be a whole load of milestones along those ways. They're not always straight line destinations for sure, but I think so much more comes into the equation when you're going from six to seven figures. It's not always like just a straightforward I just want more money. I think that's when a lot of these almost like qualitative considerations come in. Like it's not just about I want to make seven figures, it's the way that you make that seven figures and how you feel on the journey.
Yes. And what you do with it. I think a lot of times we don't get clear on what we want to do with what we have set our goals at. So you can say, I want to get to 500K in my business, or I want to get to 1 million, or I want to get to 1 billion. But why? What is it that you're wanting to do with that? Right. So if you look at an average business and you're like, I'm just going to use myself, obviously, as the example, because that's the best example I have. when I was running a marketing consulting business, I had a really hard time being able to see past my nose, seeing past like a year down the line, because I knew that I was the one who was, everything was dependent on me. And I, scaling myself was very difficult because of where I was. So me being able to see far down the line wasn't possible. Now, I was not in the right business model nor business for myself for what my big picture vision is for impact. So that doesn't apply to everyone, but the ability to see the scale and to see the level of detail wasn't there because I wasn't in alignment with my big picture vision and with the mechanism for a business model that would allow me to get there. So I think that's, I mean, there's a lot of different things muddled into that itself, understanding what it is that you're wanting to achieve, and then do you have the business that will help you get there, and if you don't, what needs to change, and then understanding, okay, I want to get to a multi seven figure business, or I want to get to, you know, $100 million business, and that is going to look like Dames chapters all around the world. That is going to look like you know, a team of probably hundreds of people that are involved in the orchestration of the business itself. And that to me is, wow, look at all of those people's families that we are going to empower and that we're going to shift the world with. Wow, look at all of the women that we can touch with our membership services at that point. Look at then all of the families that they can impact. Look at all of the people that they can ripple out to. And if we can continue to make sure that we have our values and those core principles that we want to embody into the brand itself, and that we are making sure that that's growing as we are growing and as we are scaling, those are just a few of the components that we want to really pay attention to.
I love that example, Meghann. And I'd really love to ask you actually, like, so you described feeling out of alignment. What needed to change in that situation? Was it like you, or was it the business?
Well, for me, it was a belief that I had that was I couldn't make as deep of an impact on people's lives if I stopped doing one-on-one consulting, because the work that I was doing as a marketing coach was very deep, and it was, you know, 12 to 24 months of work of really transforming someone's business and then the business for their clients and their employees and everyone else. And so I was telling myself for a long time, I won't be able to have that level of impact on individuals with running a marketing consulting business. And I had to get clear on, is that what I really want? Or do I want to have mass impact on at scale on a lot of different people and really help then other women in business get out there more to their markets and their people? So, you know, I had to really get clear on where I wanted to make that impact. And it became clear to me that for me, it's with my team, and it's with my chapter presidents, and it's with my members, and it's with being able to create that ripple outward where it's not just one-to-one, but it's one-to-many. So the business model itself had to shift. And I finally got to that point where I was like, okay, is this belief that I have that I can't drive this impact, is this serving me? Is it true? And I realized it wasn't true. And that what was true is that my heart was desiring and moving me toward running the Dames full time and watching and creating the scale of the Dames. And it was no longer to serve people one-on-one. So it was an updating my default settings, if you will, and my beliefs into, okay, I can let go of this one-on-one consulting business and put my focus 100% into the Dames. That was what the change was that I had to make personally.
I love that. And I know that that will be so relatable for people, because I have so many women in my audience who it's like they have exactly what you're describing, Meghann, that feeling of like something about what I have been building does not fit with where I'm going after this place. And so
Yep.
it's that moment of like, how do I get like a bigger impact? How do I fulfill kind of my life's potential? And I think just
Right. And
almost that sense of calling, and like there's something bigger, but like there's a lot of fear that goes into that, isn't that? You know, just being ready to step onto that bigger stage and go for the bigger impact, because it's super exciting, but it's completely terrifying.
so much of that is true. I mean, and I can remember probably it was when I was still operating my marketing business and the Dames together early on, and so this is probably like 2017. A mentor of mine that's an intuitive, he said, I see you being able to continue on and influence the millions, but it's not going to be you doing it one-on-one. It's not going to be you as the face of it. It's going to be your organization as the face of it. And at that time I thought, well, that's the marketing business, because the Dames wasn't even its own entity at that time. It was events here in Denver. And I remember like being stuck on that for a while, saying, okay, how am I going to duplicate myself, clone myself, when I was looking in almost the wrong direction? And I knew that. I felt that myself. I felt this, like, I'm here to inspire millions and billions. And how can I do that with this business model? So it required me getting extremely clear on how I connect with my own intuition, how I connect with my own inner voice and my own inner guidance, and making it a regular practice to get quiet and to listen into those little voices. Because as soon as I started doing that and really paying attention to what it was saying, then it was like, okay, here's the next step. You need to build an online membership platform in 2017. That's the first thing I got. Okay, well, what am I going to do with it? No idea. But I did it and I followed that step. Then, okay, now it's time to expand and start adding chapters outside of Denver. Okay, well, what's next after that? Nope, I only have the next step. And every single step along the way, listening, and I continue to do this on a regular basis, to listen in to my inner guidance and know what is that next step, and to trust in myself, no matter how silly it sounds, no matter how out of the norm it sounds. Because back in 2017, I'm like, people are loving being in person. Why would I build this online platform? And then I kept realizing, oh my gosh, there's this global connection that is deeply desiring to happen, so that people like you and I, Jessica, from across the seas can get to know each other and can build these collaborative relationships. Oh my gosh, there's this new global frontier that's going to happen, that is happening, that's not just for the large enterprises, it's for the small businesses. And if we can start seeing the world from a global standpoint, oh my gosh, that's when women can really truly make this huge footprint on history. And sure enough, I followed those intuitive nudges, and I don't love what happened in 2020 to the world. And we were ready, and we had this online platform that made it so that everyone could come together and connect in a time when we needed connection more than anything else. And at that point, it was like, I understand why I closed my marketing business on 12/31/19 now. And I understand why I have this whole online platform that is enabling us to connect women to come together and support each other in personal and professional growth and expansion. I get it now.
I love that, because my question was going to be, what was the trigger to actually starting to step into this bigger vision? Or was it just a series of kind of smaller steps? And you've answered that, like, talk about intuition, without me even asking it. But I think so often...
I knew you were going to
ask it. Well, that's the thing. I think so often we don't always know what we're building, and we don't always know what the next step and the next step are going to be. But it's that trust, isn't it?
I would say that we almost never know every single step along the way if we are truly intuition led. In my experience, and in the experience of those who I speak to who lead their businesses through intuition, you have your big picture vision, and you know what that visualization is of what you're headed toward. And what we get to do every step along the way is, okay, what is one step that I can take today to move me toward that vision? What is one step that I can take this week? What is one step that I can take this month? what energy do I need to be? Who do I need to be as a leader in order for this vision to come true? And being open and listening, asking who do I need to talk to this week that's going to help move my vision forward. Having those series of questions that you intuit yourself that help move you along, that's what's going to help you with the next step and the next step and the next step. And you can always trust it because it's coming from your higher guidance. Once you've learned it and once you understand and you know how to decipher between the voices in your head and the intuitive speakings, then you can learn to trust it. And of course, it can take years to figure out that trust. It did for me. But once I decided, okay, now I understand, I hear the difference, I know the difference, I'm going to trust that higher self, that higher knowing, it just got easier. It got so much easier. And then I was able to say, oh, this is the space that I've been needing in order to bring enjoyment into my life. Because when I was trying to follow someone else's model or put myself into someone else's project management box or put myself into someone else's vision, I was feeling disconnected. I was feeling discombobulated. And now I see what's the right path for me. It's all lit up.
I am still here, by the way. COVID is slightly winning at the moment in the competition for my voice.
I am wondering if I'm just trying to think about what the next step would be for us to chat about. So what I do want to say, I think that makes good sense at this point in the trajectory of this conversation is, for me, I found out early on what my values are. Some people call them lifestyle values, lifetime values. There's all different kinds of definitions or terms. But for me, it was getting clear on what my values are. And my top two values are fun and love. And it was part of that transition for me from moving from my marketing business into the Dames was there are so many things within my marketing business that aren't fun. There are so many things that are difficult, that are arduous. The growth is very slow. The growth is hard. It was almost the opposite of what my true values are embodied. And then I would look at the Dames and I would say, that is where there is fun. That is where there is forward movement. That is where, when I ask the next step, I get this lightning, here it is. And when I look for, when I do ask that question of, okay, who do I need to speak to? What is the next step that I need to take? There is always this light in front of me that is guiding me along the way. And that is that aspect of fun, and that is that aspect of light that I've come to understand and be able to feel as I'm going through on my journey. And so everyone is going to have different values that pull them forward. And I encourage you all to be very clear on what those are, and then what the energy is of those values, what the feelings are of those values in your life and in your business, and making sure that you are very tuned in to when it feels like you're off path and when it feels like you're on path, and being able to follow that energy through to fruition. So that is something that I would just say, like, we're talking about how to, have more ease and fun in your business. It may not be that you want ease and fun. It may be that there are a couple of other values for you that are more important. For me in my business, it has been about ease and fun all the way along. Are you with us, Jessica?
I am. And I love what you said there, Meghann. I think it's so important to define these ourselves. I think I'm all about ease and fun as well, particularly ease. Mm-hmm. But I'd really love to ask you, actually, what things have you done to make things more fun? Because I think a lot of people relate to what you're saying about kind of getting to a point where you just think, ugh, I don't find almost anything in my business very fun. And I think when we're all about the numbers and we're all about the growth, we can sort of flush out a lot of the things that really made us enjoy it in the first place. But like, what was that sort of process like for you? How did you
Yes.
start to bring the fun back, and what did that look like?
Yeah. And I do want to say that it wasn't always fun. I I am probably like a lot of you who, when you started your business, you probably started it because you were really good at what you do. So for me, I was really great at marketing, and I was really great at marketing, consulting, and coaching. So that is what I built my first business around. I didn't know diddly squat about running a business. I was not a natural born business owner. And so I spent from, let's see, steadily steadfast from like 2014 until till present, really. But I would say like the vast majority of my learning about business was between 2016 and 2019, where it was like day in and day out. I was part of coaching programs, mastermind groups, you name it, working with individual coaches to really understand what does it look like to run a business holistically, and where do I lack in my knowledge, and where do I need to amplify or augment my knowledge. So I really spent a lot of time, and I think that that's important, that we understand what business is, while still at that same time, I wish that I had been infusing more ease and flow into my business at those times. And I think where I struggled to infuse that was, oh, to be honest, I was just trying to make money. I was just trying to make that business fly. And especially in those early years, pre 2016, I was just trying to create a business that could sustain itself and could sustain me, and that I could pay all the bills with. So there was a lot of my time and energy that was going into just sales and delivery. And then finally, when it was like, okay, sales and delivery, I could get that sort of systematized, then I could start looking at all the other aspects. What do I need to understand about finance? What do I need to understand about accounting and human resources and, excuse me, everything else that's associated with a business? So I spent a lot of time learning. I spent a lot of time anguishing. And I would just advise others to do that, but to infuse in and say, you know, my mental health, my fun, my ease, my whatever it is for you, have got to be at the forefront. And I've got to make time for those things no matter what. It was like some of the early adoption of starting to put together my ideal calendar and really making sure that the things that I needed for myself were in there by default. And there was nothing negotiable about those things. I wish I had done that earlier. That contributes to ease, because when I get through my workout and I get through my journaling and my meditation time before I even start anything, I'm a much happier person and my productivity goes up. And there's more ease with productivity and getting things done throughout the day. But when you tell yourself that you've got to spend all of your time doing the nuts and bolts of business, and there's no time left for me, there's no time left for the fun, there's no time left for XYZ, you will always be true. That will always be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you've got to flip that switch and say, no, I've got to go into my calendar first, and the things that I know to be true about me have got to go in first. And those have to be non-negotiable. And trust me, you will fail. I still fail at this. I still trip and fall. And then I have to stand back up and say, gosh darn it, I didn't give myself the time that I needed today in order to connect with my higher self and to listen to the messages. I didn't do that today. And this is what happened. Whoops. Okay, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Or, well, shoot, I didn't take the 3 days off that I'm supposed to take off every 5 weeks. And why did I do that? Because I told myself that these to-dos had to go in front of that. Nope, not going to happen. So we learn these things along the way, that we've got to set ourselves up for success and not lie to ourselves by saying, I don't have time for XYZ, because we are the creators of our schedule. We are the creators of our reality. And if we don't spend the time getting quiet and listening to ourselves and understanding what is it that activates and amplifies the light within me that I am here to shine, then we we cut off our nose to spite our faces.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I think that one of the things that I'm channeling this year is that slowing down to speed up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we just think I have to make money, I have to make money, we actually make less money than when we focus on the slowing down.
100%. And so you asked a specific question that I never got to, but if we can actually get quiet and listen, find that flame, that light within us, and learn how to activate that light and that flame and turn it up and learn what activates it, that then tells you where to spend your time and what to do to bring that ease and that joy and that fun in for you. So for me, that was the aspect. If I don't have certain things going on in my world that activate that creative energy, that playful energy, that ease for me, then I don't show up as brilliantly and as brightly as I need to light the path for others to follow and to light the path so that other light beings can see me as I shine and can say, hey, let's all go do this thing together. And so for me, what I've really identified in the last several years is understanding that I've got to have the time for me to be out acting, doing my improv, using my character work and creating videos and creating that fun marketing and that fun just use of my own creativity, which for me comes through my body and my acting and my voice. It comes through improv. It comes through me creating things. It comes through all of those things that activate the play within me and the fun within me. And then that spills into all of the rest of the areas in my life. But I had to stop and get really clear as to what activates that light for me. And, understanding that when I get into those times of darkness and I look back at the last 3 months and I ask myself, where have I been putting my efforts and where have I been spending my time? Most of the time I realize that those things I know really light me up, I've put them to the side. And I've told myself a whole bunch of lies as to why I can't do them. So whatever it is for you, getting really clear on what creates that light for you, I think is one of the most crucial things you can do for yourself.
And what do you think, Meghann, about thinking about people who are in a situation where they really do need their business to be making more money than it currently is? There are bills to pay, there are suppliers to pay, all those kinds of pressures. What would you say about kind of the juxtaposition of how to sort of balance the desperate need sometimes to make money and the desire for ease and fun and joy and all those wonderful things? Like how can you sort of bring that in even at a stage where you feel under pressure for your business to be generating revenue for yourself, for the business itself, for the reserves, but also for your life outside?
Absolutely. So I can even feel that question when you're asking it, like as the times that I've experienced in my life where I've told myself those things. Like there's so much pressure. I'm in a pressure cooker and I'm knowing that I need to have that release of the pressure cooker valve. And I said this to a friend recently who was like, I don't know how I'm going to get to the $1 million mark this year. I set this as a goal for myself and I just don't know how I'm going to do it. And I said, she realized afterwards, after I said, you're in a pressure cooker and you're the one who put yourself there and you're the one who has access to the pressure release valve. And only until you realize that can you actually do something about this. And she was like, oh my God, I created that pressure for myself. So a lot of times we put undue pressure on ourselves. And so we have to be able to decipher between, have I put this pressure on myself? Is this reality or is this my created reality? And the only way that we can figure that out is by slowing down, getting our pace to be even slower so that we can actually be able to see. It's like you can't run through the forest and see your way out as easily as you can if you sit and you just really try to get tuned into, all right, I need some form of ease. I need some form of fun, even if it's only 5 minutes, even if it's only Okay, yes, I know that I need to have this time to spend with my own inner voice and my own inner knowing, but I don't have time to do that. Not true. Start with 5 minutes. Start with 5 minutes and then move to 5 minutes twice a day. Then move to 10 minutes twice a day. We have to start with little teeny steps in that direction. But the only way that we're actually even going to hear the ways of releasing our own pressure valve is to slow down and take deep breaths and do the things that are required, that we know when we think back. It might have been 5 years ago, the last time you felt that release. It might have been 2 years ago. It might be 2 months ago. But what was it that for you created that release and that space? And how do you get back to that space to create that release for yourself so that then you can say, okay, now that I've got to a point where I can breathe, what do I actually need to do next? What is the one thing that I can do that is really going to move me forward to achieving these things that I need to achieve? Because in those moments when 57,000 things are coming through, that is not the time to take the action. That is the time to slow down, stop what you're doing, and get ultimately quiet so that you can really hear.
That's so important, Meghann, because I think that's the thing, isn't it? If you're in that dark place and if you're feeling a lot of pressure, if you're feeling a lot of anxiety, something actually needs to change, doesn't it? You can't just push through that.
Absolutely. That is your indicator that first of all, something needs to change, and that it won't change by doing the same things that you've been doing. It will just continue to perpetuate those things that are keeping you trapped, or those things that are keeping you in the pressure cooker. So you've really got to stop and see things differently.
I think sometimes we don't realize that that's a bad thing. Like, we haven't realized we're not supposed to feel dark and twisty about our businesses.
Yeah. And I think that is, I'm not an expert on divine feminine and divine masculine, but the divine masculine energy a lot of times is to move forward in those times, and it's to sort of like warrior through. But the divine feminine is to sit back and be open to receiving some other kind of option, some other kind of solution, some other kind of something. And I think that is what we were going back to earlier, this paradigm shift that we're all in. We've got to be willing to try something else. We've got to be willing to create that space and that time for something new to come in. And that slowing down, like you said, is where it's going to come through.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's so helpful, Meghann. Thank you. Was there anything else that you wanted to say about kind of particularly the fun element? Like, how do we make business more fun?
Yes. So let's see here. I really think it's about understanding what fun is for you, of course. And a lot of times when you ask business owners, like, when was the last time you had fun? They're like, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you when the last time I had fun was. And you really get to sort of then pick deeper into that thing. So if they can think back to wherever that was it a week ago? Was it 2 years ago? What was it? And what was actually happening during that period of time? What was the feeling that you were experiencing? And then, okay, can I tap into that feeling? And then can I ask myself, is there anything in my life right now that if I leaned into it, or if I turned up the volume on it a little bit, could provide me with that feeling of fun and that feeling of adventure, that feeling of excitement and joy? Because that's going to look very different to a lot of different people. And really taking that time to get clear on what does that mean for you? Because what it means for you is not going to be what it means for me. I think a lot of this also has to do with your level of self-awareness. I personally have done a lot of work around understanding my Myers-Briggs, my Enneagram, my Strength Finder, my influence ecology type, my wealth dynamics type. I love these personality tools because it really gives us insight into ourselves, and it gives us insight into the things that we may be missing as we're just going along through doing all of the other things that we have to do. So I know for myself that having variety in my life is crucial to me having fun. Me having too much repetition in my world without also counterbalancing that with spontaneity and with the ability to create whatever for whatever reason with no end result required. So for me, even just like sitting down and doing an art project that is me just doodling on a piece of paper and then coloring it and then creating something that I just never do anything with, that creation for me and that ideation that I do with people when it's like, hey, let's just sit down and for 2 hours, let's talk about, let's dream about the things that we want to create in the world. And something may come out of this or something may not, but knowing yourself and knowing what those activators are, that's what can bring fun to your world. I mean, for some people, it might be, skiing or water skiing or something that it activates the adrenaline in your system, but really finding that time to get clear on what are those feelings that I want, how can I create those feelings, even if it's just a little bit, because what happens then is the enjoyment that we experience in our lives and in our lives as a whole filters over into our business. And then we can start asking the question, how do I have more fun in my business? And most of that, in my reflection, exists around clearing up our own calendars and our own task lists by hiring the right people who can do the things that aren't exactly in our highest and best interest, but maybe in the joy factor or are in the zone of competency or zone of excellence or zone of genius for other people. Because we, as entrepreneurs, I think, that want to grow our businesses to the high six figures or 7 or 8, know that we can't be all things to all people and we can't keep doing all of these different functions. So the fun starts coming into our business from looking at, okay, what are the next pieces? What are the next positions, the next roles that want to be created in my business? And then setting our goals for those bigger sites of, okay, if I need to hire another full-time staff person at, whatever the salary is, then what other things do I need to create in my business right now? Or what other things do I need to do in order for that big goal to happen? And for me, I just even I'm sitting here saying this and I have a huge smile on my face, because being able to create those employment opportunities and free up my time and free up some of my other staff time so that they can have more time to do more of the things that they love, it all continues to create that fun factor and that love factor that just grows outward. The other thing I just want to say about fun is, for me, laughter is the outward signal of whether I'm having fun or not. So comedy is always something that brings that lightness and that laughter for me. That's why I love doing sketch comedy and creating these sketch characters. And because the laughter that I get to have from it, the laughter that others who watch it get to have, that's sort of that external demonstration of fun is being had. And so you get to figure out what that is for yourself. But there's a reason why all of our events are these reverse mullets, as we love to call them. We've got the fun in the front, the laughter in the front, and then the inspiration in the back. Once we've activated that joy in our lives through laughter, we can really let our hair down and be able to connect better with those who are around us. But it makes us that much more receptive to all of the joyful things that we can have in this life.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think laughter and comedy, it creates such a connection, doesn't it? When we have these shared experiences, it changes the way that we connect with other people. And I think it changes the way that women do networking together for sure.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Meghann, for everything that you've shared. I wasn't planning for you to have to do such a monologue, but you've done wonderfully. And the things that you've been talking about are just so where my heart is as well. I know we're a small group this evening, but I wanted to ask if anyone would like to come up on the stage and maybe share a thought on this topic or ask a question. To do that, you raise your hand and then we can welcome people up. We've had a few shy calls recently where people haven't necessarily wanted to join the conversation, but I know that lots of you watching have been with us for the entire broadcast, which is completely amazing. Thank you so much for giving us your time and attention.
Yes, thank you.
Meghann, did you
And
have any? Oh, go on.
I was just going to say, maybe we could ask them a specific question. You know, is there something that as you're growing your business that you've desperately been wanting to have more of in your life, but you've been telling yourself you can't for one reason or another? And if that question spurs anybody's ahas and would want to come on stage to admit whatever that thing is that you may have been denying yourself. Oh, we have someone who's a brave soul. Hi, Tamika.
Can you ladies hear me?
Yes, yes. Would you like to share? Oh, Tamika, are you there?
Can you hear us?
I'm unable to hear you now, but I was
we
just gonna say I've been denying myself the opportunities to actually make money. Just telling myself that I'm not worth it or I can't do it or I really can't make that much money. So I just don't go after certain opportunities. And thank
Mm,
you, ladies, for sharing all this information. I really appreciate it.
thank you, Tamika. That is one that I can guarantee you every single woman has come across at 1 or 50 million times throughout our journey.
it's such a growth area, isn't it? Just that belief. I am
100%.
able to do something which can generate money, can generate revenue. And it's that ripple effect. I think once you get comfortable with the idea that this is something you can do, and I certainly had to prove this to myself in my own business, but once you get comfortable with that, we become unstoppable. I really believe that.
Absolutely. And I think, Tamika, it's up to each of us to understand who we need to surround ourselves with, or to find a community where we can be surrounded by our peers and those who can support us. Because I think that is the hardest part, right? When we think that we're operating in a vacuum, or we think that we're operating siloed on our own island, we think that we're the only one dealing with these fears, and we're not. There are so many other women like you out there in the world who are feeling those same things and saying, is what I have created worth my while? Is it worth the while of the world? And absolutely it is. But a lot of us need that daily affirmation and that daily reminder. So I would highly recommend going out and finding a community that can support you, because absolutely what you have created is needed in the world. We all just need those people around us cheering us on and helping us as we step courageously in the direction of doing more of that, doing more of it on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tamika, for sharing with us, because I really do think that so many women start out feeling the way that you've described. And like I said, it's an amazing thing that once you can disprove that fear to yourself and just be like, oh my goodness, I can create value. There's a whole world out there. And that's been the thing. I think, Meghann, you've probably felt this as well. You started off doing local events and then making other regional chapters of the Dames, and then opening up your movement to the entire world. There are so many people in the world. There will be a market for the thing that is on your heart to do. It can take time to find it and connect with those people, but they really are out there.
And it's, for me, Mika, I can tell you that for the first several years of business, I had no idea what I was doing. I started doing social media coaching and consulting, and then social media management in 2009, when nobody was doing that. And there was nobody that I could really turn to say, how do you do this? And, am I crazy for wanting to do this? Is this the right direction for me to move in? And how do you have your own business? And how do you make money doing this? And I can remember charging $50 to $100 a month managing other people's Facebook and LinkedIn accounts for them. And I had to go through that because I had to realize, oh my gosh, if I keep going in this direction, I'll never be able to continue. And but still believing in myself throughout the whole process that I will figure this out. I will get to that next step, and I will be able to see what I need to do next. We've all been there, and just know that you're seen, you're heard, you are loved, and what you have is valuable. Awesome. Does anyone else want to share something that they know that they've needed to do in their lives or their businesses, or live out in their lives or their businesses, but they've been denying themselves of that for one reason or another? Just give the other listeners one more chance.
Sometimes there can be a slight delay between people pressing the button to come on
Right.
stage and us seeing it. So it's good for us to filibuster for a few seconds while people press
Yes.
buttons and we see them and all that kind of thing.
Well, let me, Jessica, if your voice is holding up, let me ask you, is there something that you have struggled with, or that you are currently struggling with, that you know that you need to lean more into to have more ease in your business, but you haven't been doing it as much as you'd like to?
I think that I've really struggled to sort of believe that those rules can be changed, if that makes sense. Sometimes I've really felt like, oh, you can't have more fun. Business isn't supposed to be fun. And I think I've, like, over the last 2 years, I've been going through a massive sort of growth and evolution. And really just getting to a place where I am really realizing, this is why kind of our topic for today resonates with me so strongly, that actually when I do things that I don't enjoy, I don't get the result that I'm looking for. And tapping into that inner flow, that inner sense of purpose, that makes such a big difference.
So what is some proof that you have that business is fun? Like, what is something that you do that is fun for you that may not have anything to do with business even?
Do you know what? I'm all about growing things in my garden. And this weekend, I happened to notice, we moved house last year and I'm in a new garden. And so I'm actually quite excited because there's plants coming up and I'm like, ooh, I didn't know that we had that. And there's several shrubs that have been on my wish list in my old garden for several years. And like all of them are in this new garden. But, and, I didn't really even notice, we bought the house because it was the right house for us. I didn't really think about the garden. And it's been like the process of moving in and being like, oh my gosh, and my wish list is completely here. But I bought several plants from my old garden, and some of them, it's like in winter, they just look a bit dead. And I was really just thinking, it's great that I brought them, but I don't know if they'll actually be good for it. But just this weekend, I noticed some little tiny leaves coming out of the ground of one of the plants that I loved last year and I brought with me and I thought might not have made it over the winter. And I think I always get very philosophical about business when I'm in my garden, because it's that thing of like, we plant the seeds and sometimes it looks like it's dead and it looks like nothing is happening. And then the leaves start to grow. And I've experienced that cycle so many times in my business of just being like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm in a dead end. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing anymore. And then suddenly the leaves start to grow and people start to come forward and magic starts to happen. And I think for me, my garden is a very regenerative place for me, because it's where I look at nature and I'm just like, these things aren't just in nature and they're not sort of in our lives. They're reflected in every element of our lives. So I don't know, is that too out there? That's my gut feeling.
I would say, I think that what you're getting spoken to is you're getting spoken to through your garden. And I wonder what would happen if you spent even 10 more minutes a day going out into your garden and just speaking to your plants and asking your plants what wisdom they have for you, and asking the earth what wisdom it has for you, asking nature what wisdom it has for you, or, playing around with different questions and just getting quiet and seeing what you hear.
Yeah.
Because based on what you said, I have a strong sense that you get communicated to through nature and the earth, which a lot of people do. We get messages and we get clarity and we get the next steps when we make the commitment to spending time in nature. That is true for a lot of us. And
I absolutely do. Yeah.
yeah, one last thing that I'll share. I know we're at the almost the top of the hour here, is that, you know, I had you asked me 5 years ago what me living in fun, truly fun in my business would look like, I probably wouldn't have told you that it was possible to have fun in the ways that I am. Like, I get to, and I pinch myself because it's like, this is so awesome that every other month, you know, I get to perform sketch comedy, and I get to perform improv, and I get to perform these sketch comedy videos every single month, several times throughout the month. And it is the thing that brings in so many people into the Dames. And it is the thing that brings so many of our members to a space where they can enjoy themselves and they can enjoy their businesses more. And at our events, like, people are just like watching the stress melt away and watching the connection happen as women laugh and as women find more freedom in themselves, because I am doing the same. I am finding the freedom in myself, and I'm finding the expression in myself, and I'm speaking that out to the world. That is what I'm talking about. That is where the fun comes in on a daily basis, because I've discovered what that is that manifests itself out into the world as fun. And I know you all can too. And I know that you all have unique expressions of that. And I just want to leave you with this last thing of, you are worth it. And you taking the time to figure out what fun is and what ease looks like for you, and doing whatever is necessary to figure that out, listen to it, learn it, and then activate it in your lives little bit by little bit. Trust me, a year from now, you will be so, so grateful that you did, even a month from now.
Oh, Meghann, thank you so much for being my guest today. You have been absolutely awesome. Thank you, everyone who's been with us today. Some of you have watched the entire thing. I hope that you've got a lot out of it. This is why I wanted to bring Meghann on the show, because she is awesome. She was on my podcast last December. We had such a lot of fun doing that recording, and we are just so aligned on these things, aren't we, Meghann?
Yes, we are, Jessica. I feel extremely grateful that the universe brought us together, and that we're in community together. We're in the Dames together. And thank you all for being here with us today. And I hope that you get to go out and have more ease, more fun, and more joy in your day, in your daily life as a result.
Amazing. And just quickly, Meghann, tell us, where can people go to find out more about the Dames if they would like to?
Yes, you can go to www.thedames.co. And if you're a woman running a 6 or 7 figure business, or in a director plus role at an organization, please go to thedames.co/roundtable, ROUNDTABLE, and you'll be able to sign up for one of our free experiential events to learn about the Dames, and learn about what we're all about, and have to get to experience that.
Amazing. Well, thank you again, Meghann. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you again soon for another episode of 7 Figure Consultant Conversations on LinkedIn Audio.